Thank you. It's 7:30. This is the City of Brainerd City Council. It's Monday, March 2nd, 2023. Administrator Bergman, please call the roll.
Stengline.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Chesak.
Yes.
O'Day.
Here.
Stunek.
Here.
Terry.
Yes.
Bevins.
Here.
And Bedot.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, pardon me.
Oh, that's okay. That was just my chair.
Item 4 is the approval of the agenda. Is there a move?
So move, Johnson.
Motion to approve Johnson, second by O'Day. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are underway. We have an agenda. Item 5 is a consent calendar where all matters listed are considered routine by the council and will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless good cause is shown prior to the time the council votes on the motion to be adopted by roll call. Is there a move to adopt the consent calendar?
So move.
Motion by Stunek, second by Chesak. Any discussion? Hearing none, Administrator Bergman, please call the roll.
Stengline.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Chesak. O'Day. Stunek.
Yes.
Terry.
Yes.
And Bevins.
Yes. That resolution is adopted. Item 6 is our council committee reports. Item 6A is Safety and Public Works Committee, Chairman Mike O'Day.
Thank you, Mr. President. SPW had 7 items tonight, first of which was the event parking lot closure application for Tour of the Lakes cycling event. Motion coming out of committee was to recommend approval of the attached application under the conditions as described in the event application, including blocking off the parking lot Friday afternoon, so it's not full on Saturday morning. And I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by O'Day, a second by Chesak. Any discussion? Mr. O'Day.
Yeah, this is a event we've had in the past, a big cycling event, obviously, but they have the use of our Laurel Street parking lot during the day from about 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. They have some music during the day, and that's where they start and finish the race. That's on
Thank you.
June 2nd.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Second item was the resolution authorizing application for the LMC Grant Navigation Program. Motion coming out of committee was to recommend adoption of the attached resolution authorizing application for the League of Minnesota Cities Grant Navigation Support, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by O'Day, a second by Chesak. Any discussion? Mr. Chair.
So this is through the League of Minnesota Cities. They have a program that they will give us hopefully up to about $5,000 to navigate some of these bigger grants that take a little more time and effort to get through. Hopefully we can use this after we get through our feasibility study with SRF on the pedestrian bridge that we're trying to get on the east side of town. And this will help us maximize our ability to get some federal grants for making that pedestrian bridge happen over 210 in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this is a resolution. Administrator Bergman, please call the roll.
Stengline.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Chesak.
Yes.
O'Day. Stunek.
Yes.
Terry.
Yes.
And Bevins.
Yes, that resolution is adopted. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Item 3 was FHWA Title VI Assurances Agreement. Motion coming out of committee was to recommend approval of the FHWA Title VI Assurances Agreement that states the city will comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by O'Day, a second by Stengline. Any discussion? Mr. O'Day.
So anybody receiving federal funds for highways or anything else is required to follow Title VI assurances. This is basically saying you're not going to discriminate or practice any discrimination in any way based on race, color, or national origin. And we're not doing that anyway right now, and we just have to continue to not do that.
Excellent. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Item 4 was the historic water tower additional items. as everyone knows, we're going through the process trying to fix the water tower. A couple items came up. Secondary drain outlet, that is, to meet proper plumbing specifications and code, we have to run it to the outside of the tower. There's a plan in our packet if you guys want to look at it. I don't know if you can pull it up, Sean, if anybody's interested in looking at that. That's one piece of this. That's $28,011.70. That would be running out to the, what do you call that, the balcony? Observation deck, even better. So that it doesn't have to run all the way down to the bottom. Hopefully it never has to get used anyway, but it is part of code. The other part of this was a phase 2 investigation for the rest of what needs to be fixed. Basically, part of this is investigating how much of the outside, the exterior needs to be replaced. We don't really know the extent for sure. Hopefully it's not the entire thing. But we're gonna find out through this study. The study is about $54,700. And the Water Tower Committee, through fundraising, is chipping in $20,000 of that, so that brings the city's cost on that to $34,700. Those two items, through our committee, we had a motion to approve moving forward with, and so I will go ahead and move to approve that.
We have a motion by O'Day, a second by Stengline. Any discussion?
So you have-
I see that. All right. Chairman Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I support the expenditure. I just have one problem. I read on the memo that in 2018, we approved $300,000. That was for the destruction and tearing down of the water tower, of which we later said, okay, we'll turn it into grant matches to fix the water tower. Because I see on the bottom, it also says approximately $112,000 remains in the funds allocated to the water tower rehabilitation phase 1 project. No money was given to just phase 1 project. It was given to the entire project. Any future money would have to be discussed at a different time. The $300,000 was all total, not phase 1. But otherwise, I support this.
Appreciate that, Chairman Johnson. Any further discussion? Chairman O'Day.
There was an additional bid. We have to do some additional electrical work to install some heat tape on the drain that comes off the roof. There was some freezing and thawing issues. We had water starting to pool up there. So adding some heat tape to that, we finally got a bid Friday after the packet came out. So today we saw that it's $23,750. We decided to hold off on that and send that back to the Water Tower Committee to see if they are interested in moving forward in that direction.
Thank you. Mr. Chesak?
Yeah, actually, that was part of my motion to send that portion back to the Water Tower Committee and then approve these other two, but that's okay, Mr. O'Day. It didn't include it in your motion.
I'll amend my motion.
A friendly amendment there, yeah. So you're amending the motion.
To send the $23,750 for the electrical work from Holden back to the water tower.
Okay.
That's correct.
And the seconder's okay
I'll
with
second it,
that?
yeah.
So now we're going to discuss only the amendment, the $23,700. Is there any discussion on that? And we'll vote on that first.
That was just, Mr. Chair, or President Bevan, that was just part of the motion on committee. And,
Actually, that's not what he said. He said he amended it. Didn't, so we have to do it this way.
That's fine. I was just making a,
Appreciate that, Mr. Chesak.
okay.
Any other comments on the motion to amend? Hearing none. All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 2-0. We're back to the amended motion. So the motion is to approve 28,011.70 for the drain and 34,700 for the investigation, and to send the 23,750 back to the committee. Any more discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next item was plans and specifications to authorize bidding for the 2023 seal coat project. You can remember last year our bids came back astronomically high, and we elected not to do any seal coating last year. We're hoping that they came down. It's the same project as we were planning on doing last year, College Drive and South 4th. up to Willow. We have about 150,000 budgeted for this, but motion coming out of committee was to recommend approval of the plans and specifications as presented and authorizing bidding of improvement 23-01 with an anticipated bid opening of April 12th, 2023 at 10 a.m. I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by O'Day, a second by Stengline. Any discussion on seal coating? Any discussion on seal coating? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next was a quote for testing services for North Brainerd reconstruction. We had a couple of quotes come back, and these are testing services that we have to do with these projects. One was from Braun Intertech at $39,954. ITT's proposal was $10,515. We recommend authorizing the quote with ITT in the total amount of $10,515, and I so move.
We have a motion by O'Day. Is there a
Second.
second? Second by Chesak. Is there any discussion? Any discussion on the testing bid? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you. Please proceed, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our final item was a transit fare increase for Brainerd. Going through the TAC committee, trying to make some changes and make our transit system more self-sustainable. What came from the TAC themselves was to increase fares for Brainerd to Brainerd rides. Somewhat confusing for people who don't use it, but it's basically an increase of $1. So it's $2.25 a ride or $4.50 for the same day service. And approval, the recommendation coming out of committee was to approve the recommended fare increase of $1 for Brainerd to Brainerd dial-a-ride to $2.25 and $4.50 for same day, effective May 1st, 2023. I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by O'Day, a second by Chesak. Chairman Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I support this, and I'm glad that the Transportation Advisory Committee is beginning to work on putting together a plan after signing a contract that was too expensive over 2 years ago. I've been watching the meetings, and it looks like some of the routes not in Brainerd, the Pine River, the county, those routes might be being subsidized by Brainerd, but they're looking into it. And I just want to thank the Transportation Advisory Committee for finally looking into it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. President.
Mr. Chesak.
We've been looking into it and taking a lot of serious discussion on this, so it's not something you just snap your fingers and fix. So I appreciate the effort by all the committee members.
Thank you, Mr. Chesak. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Please proceed.
End of report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next up is item 6B, Personal and Finance Committee, Chairman Gabe Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've got 3 quick items on the agenda, the first of which is a Step 5 hiring, and the motion is to approve the hiring of Dallas Morehouse as a journeyman line worker at Step 5, subject to successful completion of pre-employment hiring process. And I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by Johnson, second by Stunek. Any discussion? Chairman Johnson.
Yeah, he's actually worked at BPU for a while back in 2014 and 15, and he's got 15 years of experience. So staff just thought Step 5 was warranted in this case. So that's what we're doing here.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Please proceed.
All right, the next one is a resolution, and the motion that came out of committee was to adopt the attached resolution supporting statewide policies and resources for public safety, mental and physical injury education, prevention, and treatment, and I so move.
I second.
We have a motion by Johnson, second by Terry. Any discussion? Chairman Johnson.
So I voted no on this down in committee, and I will again, but staff really wants this. I just think it's a bad piece of legislation that would put 61% of the money spent into just 2 towns at the expense of all the other towns across the state, and I don't think that's very equitable, so I'll be voting no.
Thank you,
I have a
Mr.
question.
Chair. Mr. O'Day.
Is Brainerd one of those towns?
Minneapolis and St. Paul.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none. The motion is to adopt this resolution. Administrator Bergman, please call the roll.
Stingline.
Yes.
Johnson.
No.
Chesak. O'Day.
No.
Stunek.
Yes.
Terry.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes. That resolution is adopted. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. The final and most exciting item on our agenda is approve the promotion of John Davis to police chief. And the motion is to approve the promotion of John Davis to police chief effective June 3rd, 2023, subject to the successful completion of a background check. Further, that his initial step placement be step 3 of the police chief wage grid. And further, to authorize staff to begin an internal promotion process to backfill the deputy chief position, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by Johnson, second by Stunek. Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Please proceed.
End of report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next up is 7 unfinished business. 7A is a call for applicants. Mr. Mayor.
Oh, so fast tonight. The following applications are available on our website, www.ci.brainerd.mn.us/boards. The Charter Commission, 2 terms expiring 2026, 2 terms expiring 2025. Rental license, or rental dwelling license, Board of Appeals, 5 terms expiring 2024. The TAC, 1 term expiring 2023, as well as the Economic Development Authority. My gosh, let's get sped up here. 1 term expiring 2028 and 1 term expiring 2026.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And as council president, I have 2 commissions with openings, the Parking Commission, 1 term to expire 2026, and the Planning Commission, 1 term to expire 2025. Item 8 is new business. Item 8A is a call for public hearing on April 3rd for the 2023 Small Cities Development Program proposal to the Department of Employment and Economic Development. Connie Hillman, is there anything that we need to do tonight outside of calling for that public hearing?
No, Ben, just authorize the Brainerd HRA to submit the full grant application. We'll be
Okay.
back at the next council meeting with additional items that need to be as well, but just as long as they can go ahead and work on the grant as well.
So we're looking for a motion to authorize the Brainerd HRA to submit small Cities Development Program application for, it's backwards. Deed for Southeast Brainerd Grant Program, further to call for a public hearing to be held on April 3rd, 2023. Is there a move?
So move, Johnson.
Second.
Motion by Johnson, second by Stangline. Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 8B is consideration of a conditional use permit for a 5-unit apartment at 2307 Crestview Lane. This is Mr. Kramvik. Anything you'd like to add to what's in our packet?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. 2307 Crestview Lane is located in a contemporary neighborhood 2 zoning district. Multifamily attached dwellings of 5 or more units is considered a conditional use in the CN2 district. As a note, 1 to 4 unit attached dwellings are permitted in this district, provided it meets all of the requirements of the zoning code. So this would, if it were to go down to a 1 to 4 unit, would add a garage requirement for each unit and not require the foundation plantings, and extra conditions could not be put upon the property. So with that, also, upon submittal of the building permit, the applicant will be required to produce a site plan prepared by a registered surveyor, essentially showing that the property does not exceed 60% impervious surface. Staff did recalculate the impervious surface of the property as 53%, kind of plus or minus, which did include a small concrete walkway that would also have to be added to the entrance. So with that, staff does believe it is considerably under the 60% impervious surface mark. Looking at density of the property, Staff did use the extents of Buffalo Hills Lane to the north, Crestview Lane to the west, Woodland Hills Lane to the south, and Greenwood Street to the east to run a density calculation on the neighborhood. So this area is approximately 2.69 acres and contains 41 units / vacant properties. Vacant properties are also considered a unit because they are buildable. So this did, including the 5-unit potential apartment, equate to a density of 3.23 units per acre, which does not exceed the CN2 district standards. The proposed development did meet all other requirements of the zoning code, including off-street parking as well as landscaping. City Engineer Dean did go out with the applicant to visit the site and take a look at stormwater. Did not see any issue with the stormwater plan that was presented. The applicant also did meet with the fire marshal to make sure that everything was compliant with any of the fire codes, and there was no issue from the fire department. Planning Commission did consider this request at their last meeting, and the primary issues that were discussed at the Planning Commission meeting centered around site orientation of the units in relation to the surrounding properties. There is 1 unit facing the street, which does have a door to Crestview Lane. The remaining 4 units have a side entrance. Also a concern from the Planning Commission was consistency with the architectural styles of the neighborhood. The facade that's facing Crestview Lane is vinyl sided. There's a door there. Homes that are in the Crestview area have front-facing garages, covered entrances, do have vinyl siding. Some of those structures do have brickwork or stonework on them. Housing density was discussed at the Planning Commission meeting, not stated as a major concern by the Commission, but was certainly a concern of nearby residents at that meeting during the public hearing. So with a 4-2 vote, the Planning Commission did recommend the CUP for the 5-unit apartment at 2307 Crestview Lane with the following condition. The applicant works with staff to enhance the front entrance with 25% stone or brick and a covered entrance for the door facing Crestview Lane. The applicant works with staff to finalize a planting plan prior to installation. The number of shrubs shall not be reduced. All lighting attached to the building shall be downcast and have a correlated color temperature of 3,000 Kelvin or lower. A 6-foot wood or vinyl privacy fence shall be constructed along the south property line from the rear property line to the facade of the neighbor's house. The fence shall only be constructed if agreed upon by that neighbor to the south. So with that, that's a summary of the project as well as the conditions recommended by the Planning Commission. I'll just add a little bit about the CUP process. A vote of approval tonight is an acceptance of the findings and recommendation of the Planning Commission. A failed motion to approve the CUP would not be considered an answer to the applicant, which is required by state statute. So essentially, a following motion would have to be done, denying the CUP request, and then there should be reasons stated by council for that denial, either based on zoning code requirements or requirements for the issuance of CUP that were included in the findings. I don't know if the city attorney has any additional information on that. Otherwise, I can certainly answer any questions.
Before I ask for questions, Community Development Director Kramvik, I'm going to turn it over to our city attorney, just if he has any comments on this, on the process tonight.
Mr. President, Council, I think that Mr. Kramvik summarized it pretty well. You can, like he said, you can either approve it as it's written, you could change the conditions if you wanted to, you could deny it, but give us direction as to what the reasons are. Then we can come back to the next meeting and give you the formal findings to vote on for the denial. There's also time, frankly, if you wanted to send it back to the Planning Commission and give them direction to further analyze some issues as well. Those are the different options available to you.
Thank you. Before we look for a motion, any questions of staff? It could be Mr. Kramvik or Mr. Langel. Mr. Chesak, we'll start with you.
Yes, I'd like to ask Mr. Kramvik a couple of questions, if I could.
You may, please.
So, Mr. Kramvik, when you talk about conditional uses, if it gets turned down tonight or overall eventually, those all go away, and the developer could come back with a 4-unit apartment and then none of these conditions would apply, and there'd be nothing would come before this council to be approved with a 4-unit development there, correct?
So other than the zoning code requirements, which do have design standards, but additional conditions could not be attached. In order to do 4 units, it would have to meet impervious surface. Certainly, there's a garage requirement that makes that impervious surface a bit more difficult, but as long as everything fits within the zoning code, it would be allowed
Thank you.
administratively.
Anything else, Mr. Tezek?
Not at this time.
Thank you, Mr. O'Day.
I don't know if we have the map available, the zoning map, but if you look at it, that, it doesn't conform to the same thing that's going on in that side of the block. It does with what's going on across the street somewhat. But my question is, when did that change? Why do we have one lot that has something completely different? I don't remember ever seeing that come through here.
So it would have been adopted with the zoning code. So staff did take a look at specifically lots, commercial properties as well as residential, making sure that things did not go to non-conforming lots. So there was a number of lots that staff brought to make sure things did not turn into non-conforming lots. This one, essentially a single family, as well as multifamily, could be allowed, so it didn't come up in those findings. I think previous staff, as well as Swanson Hascamp, did look at this lot being next to a church in the rear yard, as well as a neighborhood as a whole, with sixplexes that are below the church, as well as the kind of the dense development going on with duplexes and single-family housing across the street that's CN2, looking that this would be a potential site for a multi-family development.
Mr. O'Day?
That's all.
That's all? My question is just, Mr. Kramvik, you didn't mention there was a public hearing at Planning and Zoning,
There was.
and Mr. Langle, tonight's motion could be to either approve or deny the conditional use. Thank you. Any other, Cara Terry?
Question for you, Mr. Kramvik. So during the planning and zoning meeting, you had mentioned that we look at different areas differently. So North Brainerd would be looked at differently in order to determine the density numbers, differently than Crestview would be looked at. How do residents know what we're applying to which neighborhood? Is that clarified somewhere for folks to look at and see?
It's not clarified by zoning code. Our consultants did recommend, just because there's so much variation to it, that we at least have to stay consistent when we are looking at that. So typically when you do have roads and it doesn't go on, for an extended period of time, typically those roads or a lake or wetland, anything like that would be considered your extents in there. So that's what was recommended by our consultants when calculating density.
And then one more question, Mr. President.
Sure, please.
How does the comp plan play into the approval of this site? I understand the pieces that you've outlined in our packet. What about the current zoning of the property?
So, and Mr. Langle can maybe talk about this as well, but really the legal and legal document would be the zoning code when you're looking from a land use perspective. The comprehensive plan is more of a guiding document specifically for the zoning code, especially when you're looking at rezonings. But however, in the rules and administration, there should be some correlation with the comprehensive plan. So it does play a part with conformance to the comprehensive plan and the rules and administrations for approval of conditional use permits.
One more question.
Please.
So I don't know if this is possible, not being a zoning expert myself, but if the comp plan is showing one thing and the zoning ordinance isn't necessarily clear in terms of what we're going to be looking at to zone a property, how will residents know? I mean, would it be a matter of calling the city to say, I'm buying a property next to this vacant lot, how do I know what's going to be built there, kind of thing, if it's not clear?
Yep, certainly a resident could reach out if they do have questions on vacant lots next to them. What the future land use map is for potential rezonings, or what the zoning code would allow for.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Okay. So we're going to have no further discussion. The public hearing's been held. You can make a motion to either approve or deny. But if you motion to deny or if you vote to deny, we are going to do a roll call on this, and you please state your reasoning for denial. Anybody care to make the motion? I don't believe you can call a point of order. You are not part of the council. Anybody?
I'll go ahead and make a motion.
You can.
I will motion to deny.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by O'Day to deny, a second by Johnson. We'll start with O'Day as to his reasons for denial and move to Johnson, and then anybody else who wishes to discuss.
I have plenty of reasons to deny. I drove through that block today, and if you just take one drive through there, you can see that building does not belong there. That it doesn't fit in there at all. There's 2 more single-family homes that are being built just to the south of this right now. Now you have just a few open lots there. And right before we're gonna fill this up with single-family homes or duplexes, we're gonna now add this building that, no offense to the developer, I appreciate that you guys want to develop in this city, and we want development in this city, but we have to do it right. But I would feel terrible having Mr. and Mrs. Leaf to the north look out their back window onto a motel parking lot. That's essentially what this would be. So I wouldn't want it in my backyard. I wouldn't expect these guys to either. I mean, if you deny this and somebody comes back with a fourplex, there is what you just told us, requirement of garages, correct? That solves the issue in my mind. But furthermore, I would push to rezone this and make it more conforming with the plots to the north and the south. So, but that's essentially my reasoning. I don't think we need parking lots in single-family neighborhoods.
Anything else, Mr. O'Day?
Nope.
Chairman Johnson?
Yeah, I pretty similar thoughts on it. I believe the parcel is zoned incorrectly. I think we made a mistake when we passed the zoning map last year, and I think we should probably change it to be Contemporary Neighborhood 1 instead of 2. I understand there are some apartments on Greenwood Street, but Greenwood Street's Greenwood Street, not Crestview Lane. Crestview Lane's Crestview Lane, and I too drove down it, and from all the way from Buffalo Hills to further south down here, it's single-family homes. That's just what that neighborhood is, and I think it's a mistake to allow multifamily. And I know they can by right build a fourplex. I'm aware of that mistake that we made, and I think we should correct it, but that's my reasoning.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Mr. Sunak?
I would echo the same things. I've driven down there many, many times, and it doesn't fit. And I'll just leave it at that because they've said everything.
Okay. Ms. Terry?
I agree with all of the comments. I also recognize the need for a variety of housing opportunities in the city. I also appreciate Mr. Kramvik's thoughtful approach to the dwelling units per acre in this area. I think the way in which we approach that, though, the number right now is arbitrary until we get some sort of pattern developed or information that we can share with the public. In the comp plan, the area is noted as low to medium density, and as the other council members have mentioned, all of the homes are of single-family status on Crestview Lane, so I will be voting no. Or I'd be voting yes to his no.
Got it. I appreciate that.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
President Bevan,
Mr. Chesak?
can I ask a question?
You can comment on the motion, and that's what you can do. We had a question and answer, and I apologize. This is a point of order. Would you like to comment on the motion?
No.
Okay, thank you. Any other, there you go, Tiffany? Commenting on the motion,
Commenting on the motion, so,
to deny.
yes, well, the motion to deny, I will be voting against the motion to deny, which I realize is a double negative.
Yep, I know.
What I think we were coming out of in the planning commission is that we have expressed the need for more housing in our community, for more, frankly, for more density in a lot of our neighborhoods. We were also not thrilled with how the building looked. There were several comments about that. but balancing that out. And I do think it's important to know that the drawings, I know that one of the conditions was to work with city staff to make it look better, but the drawings are also not, I'll say, to be taken at face value. My understanding from the developer is that this was a previously designed building and they just tweaked a few things, but they're not done tweaking how it's gonna look. So,
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Everybody's had a chance to speak. We've got a motion. We've got a second. Mr. Langle, any comments on the reasoning to deny as given?
Mr. President, Council, I've heard reasons that have to do, frankly, in large part with zoning, which is really not the issue before the council tonight. If possible, I would like to hear more comments about the language in the document here that was provided by Mr. Kramvik concerning the criteria for granting or denying conditional use permits, visual interest, proposed use, sited, oriented, landscape, any of those types of things, if those are, if there are any particular issues with those types of things that we could work into findings.
Okay.
President Bevins?
I could take a stab.
We have a motion and a second.
President Bevins?
We're gonna call the roll in 2 minutes, and you'll get to explain why you're voting for or against, specifically against. Okay, everybody's had a chance to comment. Administrator Bergman, please call the roll if
Kelly?
you, yes?
Jeff
President Bevins?
didn't,
I gave him a chance.
oh, well,
Yes, did I not?
Well, it has to do with what the city attorney said, and that was what my question was gonna be. He picked up on something that I wanted to ask about, but you wouldn't let me,
Right.
because it wasn't pertaining to the motion, it had to do with rezoning. So if he picked up on it, and I want to ask about it, I think it's appropriate.
Go
to
ahead,
ask the
Jeff.
question. Thank you. Can we change the zoning on a property that somebody purchased and had planned on building based on what it was zoned? That's my question.
I'm not sure that's pertinent to the,
Well,
but I'll.
That's what's being discussed, according to our city attorney.
I'm not sure we're talking about changing zoning.
Well, that's what some people.
Oh, I'm not gonna allow that question. We're not talking about changing zoning.
Well,
All right, Administrator Bergman, please call the roll on the motion to deny. If you vote in favor of the motion, please state your reasons again.
Stenglein,
No.
Johnson,
Yes, the lot is too small.
Chesak,
yes,
And why, Jeff?
I'm sorry, this is a motion to deny. I'm voting no against this motion. I apologize.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. I just think that.
O'Day,
Yes. I don't believe it conforms with the neighborhood, no garages, large parking lot, among other issues.
Stunek,
Yes. Can I say the same reasons? Because I was going to.
Yes?
Terry,
Yes, for all of the reasons listed.
Bevins.
No. The motion passes 4-3 to deny the conditional use permit. We will move on. No, you can't clap. Dolpher's here. He has feelings. Okay? I'm sorry. You can go outside and do that. Thank you. Next up is item 9, public forum. Time, Mr. Attorney, is there anything else we need to move on this conditional use? Okay. Item 9 is the public forum, time allocated for citizens to bring matters not on the agenda to the attention by council. We'll ask you to keep it to 3 to 5 minutes. When you come up, please state your name and address. I will open the public hearing forum at 8:09. Please come on up. Don, state your name and address and what you've got for us tonight.
Hello there, my name is Don Gorham, 419 Southwest Ave. I've been on,
Oh, that microphone's not on.
all right.
Don Gorham, 419 Southwest 5th. Once again, I'm here at the City Council to talk about the Brainerd Riverfront and talk about our efforts and talk about some recent developments. It's been a really interesting process, starting back in 2013 when we got started. What was so neat about this process, it was a diverse group of people who worked together, who developed consensus, who worked in a way that was open, it was fair, there was no contention. We worked together. And not only did we work together as a group, we worked together in the community. We involved in community engagement on many levels, whether it was retail, just going one-on-one at public events, talking to people about why this was important, why a park was important, why our efforts to connect the city to the river, why they were so important. And that was really the hallmark of the whole process, is that it engaged a lot of people, a lot of groups, and it was never one person. It was always a group effort. And I think in all of our years and all of our meetings, I remember one vote. We never even had to have votes. We would develop a shared idea. We didn't agree 100%, but we would come up with something everyone could work with. And that's how we were able to work forward and successfully go up, get $2.85 million, and lead to the construction of a wonderful park on the riverside. During the process, the question came up, what are you going to name this park? And we as a group, we worked together, batted around a bunch of different ideas, talked about it, and a consensus emerged. We were going to call it Mississippi Landing. And there was a reason to call it Mississippi Landing. There was a real reason behind it. And so what we were trying to do, again, was build the connection, which is what the City Council asked us in 2013. They asked us to come up with a plan that would build connections between the neighborhoods and the river. That's what the name Mississippi Landing did. It told you exactly what was there, why you were there, and what the star of the park would be. The star would be the Mississippi River. That was very important to us. During the process, the name got amended. We added the word trailhead to it. That word was added to gain more support for it by appealing to transportation, appealing to the instinct that lawmakers have to try to build connections through trails and waterways and things like this. That's the way the word trailhead was added to it. And so we were pretty confident. We were on our way. Over the last year, we've been going through the fine-tuning process, working with the project management team, and there were 3 of us from the committee who have remained involved all the way through. Got my buddy John Forrest here tonight, and Eric Roberts and I, we all served and worked together very hard on this, along with many of you here in the room. And we were able to, come up with a plan. Amazingly, we had a park that came in under budget. It was terrific. Nobody expected that. We're heading to a grand opening on June 3rd. Very excited about it. But when I woke up last week and looked at my local newspaper and read that the park name had been changed on February 21st to Lyman White Park, I was shocked. I was like, where did this come from? I had talked to Jennifer a year ago when I first heard of this idea, and I said, Jennifer, please let us know if this comes up, if this appears on an agenda, let us know. We're concerned about it. We want to be part of this discussion. We want to have input on this. Please let us know. Well, it wasn't on an agenda. It was on no agenda at all. This came up at the mayor's report, came up on the mayor's report, and listen, I respect that the mayor loves this town as much as I do. And I have nothing against Lyman White. That's not what I'm here for today. But I just think the process of switching the name at the last minute was so unfair to all the work that came before, and so unfair to all the people who worked on this, who cared so much to go to all these meetings and to see this project through. Nobody made us do it. We did it because we love this town. We want to see this town to be a better place. So to see this change at the last minute, suddenly it becomes Lyman White Park, was kind of shocking. And again, I think it was unfair to the people involved. And I think the park, we should go back to the original name. I'm okay with dropping the word trailhead. That makes it kind of cumbersome. But I think it should be Mississippi Landing. I know you're probably thinking, well, it's too late now. We've ordered the sign. We're on our way. This is it. But again, remember the process. And remember that this has involved a lot of people working together in the community. And seemingly have one person come up with a pet name here, and the whole project changed at the last minute is unfair. And there were plenty of opportunities for this name to be discussed. This name could have been discussed at the project management team any number of times. Anybody could have sought me out or John out or anybody else at the committee and say, hey, would you consider a different name? We would have. I really think we honestly would have. But the process was really kind of derailed, and I think it was kind of an unfair result. I'm wishing that you guys would reconsider this, and we consider opening this up to the community again. Think of surveys. That's one of the things that we did during the Riverfront project. Is we did a community survey that was great, asking people what they wanted to see in a park and what elements were important. What did they want in a park? And we got just 1,000 responses, something like that. Just use SurveyMonkey. It was really simple technology, and we got a lot of input and a lot of involvement. And that's how I think the name of this park should be treated.
John, you're at 5.
It should encourage involvement. So I want to thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience or online? Sean, do we have anybody online this evening? Come on up, state your name and address, and we'd love to hear from you.
I'm John Forrest, and 159 Pineview Drive, and I have been involved with the Brainerd Riverfront Committee since it started in 2013, Don said, so that's 10 years now. And I'm also involved with the Rotary Riverside Park. I'm co-chairman of that committee, and I'm co-chairman of the Brainerd Riverfront Committee. And I believe that the Brainerd Riverfront was a hidden gem, and spent a lot of time and effort working with Rotary, working with the Brainerd Riverfront Committee to try to realize, hopefully, what this hidden gem could be. I echo Don's comment. I'm very concerned about process. And I found out by picking up the Dispatch. I don't believe there's anything published about this. I don't believe there's any discussion ahead of time. Most certainly our committee was not contacted. I don't know if the Parks Department was contacted or not. And I would certainly think they should have their due input in this. And I guess I will go on further, and at the risk of being a little bit brusque. We live in sensitive times, and we live in a time when a lake in Minneapolis has to be renamed because the namesake for that lake was perhaps a slaveholder. We live in times where statues are being torn down and busts are being removed from public buildings because of sensitivity to groups. We live in a time where we can't have a pro football team named the Redskins. It's a sensitive time. And now Brainerd wants to change the name and call it a Lyman White Park. I think the city should really tread carefully on this issue. I think it speaks for itself. I don't think I have to go any further into that. It's dangerous territory. It's sensitive times, and the way ideas seem to gather their own weight, their own steam, and all of a sudden become huge issues. Brainerd is not a very diverse community. I don't think we need a park that has the name White in it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Anybody else in the audience wish to speak to the council on anything that's not on the agenda this evening? Anybody at all? I will ask a third and final time. It is 8:18, and I will close the public forum and move to item 10, staff reports. We'll start to my left, HR Director Schubert. Mr. Attorney?
Nothing here, thank you.
Community Development Director Krambeck?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Just like to update the City Council on some of the other items from the last Planning Commission meeting. Planning Commission did discuss Brainerd properties along Delwood Drive, considering whether and discussing if these properties, because of utility infrastructure, some of the services that we don't provide there, whether these properties should be detached. Planning Commission did consider this. There was a couple of residents that also spoke essentially opposed to this. They did come up there and say they essentially love being a part of Brainerd, as well as Brainerd Public Utilities did add infrastructure to to this area as well, so they also recommended not detaching the properties. So with that, Planning Commission did recommend essentially no further consideration for detachment of Dellwood properties. If there was, it certainly would have came back to City Council for recommendation. Planning Commission also did hold, or will be holding a public hearing for the new proposed lighting ordinance for the zoning code. This will be specifically related to color temperature as well as dimmable lighting standards. And the commission did begin working on a new off-street parking ordinance. Staff will certainly update council as Planning Commission works on that ordinance in the next few months here. And that's all.
Thank you. City Engineer, Public Works Director, Deanne.
Yes, sir, Mr. President and Council. Just a really quick update. Staff attended a pre-construction meeting with MnDOT for the 25 bridge over the railroad. The contractor's anticipating about a May 1st start date for that work. Weather dependent, might be a little bit early, might be a little bit later, but right around that May 1st. Right now, the sign detour is going to be County Road 117, Industrial Park Road, over to South 6 to return you back to 210. So in case anybody's wondering how they're going to kind of get around that area, that would be the official sign detour for that area.
Thank you. Finance Director Hillman. Thank you. IT GIS Director Strong.
Nothing?
Police Chief Bestel, how many more hours? Anything from the police department this evening? Thank you. Online, I think we've got HRA Director Charpentier, I saw. Anything from the HRA? Eric?
Nothing this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you, I think. I didn't quite hear that, but it sounded like wah, 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 wah. City Administrator Bergman.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mayor, members of the council. Just a couple of quick updates. On March 2nd and 3rd, I believe, I had the opportunity to attend the League of Minnesota Cities Elected Officials training. Would strongly recommend that that council members consider that in the future. I thought it was really a worthwhile. It was worthwhile time. I learned a lot. Thought it was very interesting. I also had the opportunity to present to the Blue Ox Leadership Group through the chamber. There are about 35 people here in council chambers. I know they also heard from the police department and the fire department as well. Another thing, just to let you know, we did interview for a communications marketing intern. So I believe we will be having another communications intern this summer. We did not have one last year, so excited about that. I was on Community Focus last Monday. Again, just really appreciate Hubbard Radio giving the city of Brainerd the opportunity to talk about the great things that are happening in Brainerd. But last, but certainly not least, a big thank you to the City Council. My apologies for missing the meeting on March 6th. I am a new grandma. My granddaughter was born on March 6th. Thank you so much for letting me be there with my daughter and meeting my granddaughter. And thank you to Connie for stepping in. And that's it.
Thank you. The Honorable Mayor Bedell.
Oh, the honorable. Oh, we'll keep our remarks less controversial tonight, I guess. So we have two things to mention. I don't know if you guys are aware, but St. Patrick's Day happened. I hope you're all recovering. Aspirin is available if you need it. Ibuprofen is a good solution. Excedrin is a better one. I will say this. We had our event 2 Saturdays ago. And blizzard conditions. I don't know if you were aware of this. However, it was really warm, and it was extremely pleasant. Everyone that was involved had a really good time. It did keep the crowds down a little bit, but that's good for Councilman Gabe Johnson. He's not a crowd guy, so him and his kids were able to get. I still had candy when I came trucking through. The best part of the whole parade was Councilman Stunek found me a rope. I found a sled, and we just pulled me behind a car in a sled, and it was a ton of fun. The entire event was a really good time, and thank you to James Kramvik and Jesse Dean. They rode in the event, and this knucklehead was our official O'Day.
I have a question how that happened.
Because your name is not O'Stunek.
Investigation.
Your name is not O'Stunek. But you put an O in front of your name, and we'll put you in a car. But it was a lot of fun. And hopefully we'll continue moving forward. I know Shep and Denise have been putting that on for a long time. And Shep will tell you every single year that it is the most ridiculous day of his life. So, but we just keep pushing him along. So, a ton of fun, really excited. That moves us to what the next event is, and that is Easter, ladies and gentlemen. I believe it is April 8th. Am I correct? The Saturday, April 8th, because not actual Easter, ladies and gentlemen. You know, you can do that on your own. Saturday, April 8th, the Gregory Park Easter egg hunt will be happening. Ton of fun. We are blessed with 2 fantastic Easter egg hunts in our city at Gregory Park, and then following that, directly after, you can head over to MP. MP, free for all, tons of candy, but I've seen tears. I've seen tears. You got to be careful over there. Gregory.
Is this Gabe again?
No, yes, it is, but that's because of the crowd. Gregory, it's very organized. Are we still doing time slots, or was that just a COVID thing? Just a COVID thing. Okay, so no time slots, but you go, your kid gets an opportunity. It's a ton of fun. They group it by ages, and it's a lot of fun. So it's at 10 o'clock? 10 o'clock. I was going to say it was at 8, so thankfully it's not. 8 is the day, 10 is the time. But get over there. Bring your kids down and have a good time. That is a fantastic event in the city of Brainerd. End of report.
But that was the brief report, huh?
Don't encourage them.
Let's start to my right with Mr. Ostunik to accommodate Mr. Ochezek.
I have nothing to say.
Ms. O'Terry, Mr. O'Johnson. Nothing. I have nothing. Mr. O'Day, Mr. O'Day.
Sure. It was a great time at the parade, and I can answer your question, Kevin. If you say yes one too many times, you get to be the grand
But
marshal
at least
in
rode in
that
my
parade.
big red truck.
Well, you never asked.
Well, you never told me you were going to be the big dog.
Switch to green.
He asked you
Maybe next year.
Jeez.
Thank you. Ms. O'Stingline.
From, just to elaborate a little bit on what James said with parking, the vacancies on the parking commission, I'd encourage anybody who's interested, because that might get interesting. And then the other thing, I wanted to mention the Bridges Career event that Councilmember Terry and I were both at CLC. It was really exciting, and if anybody needs any welding done, no, not me. Kara, yeah.
Welder. Who knew it was a skill I held?
Yeah. I managed to hit the virtual truck with the virtual bucket thing, so don't give me a real one.
Anything else?
No.
And per your request, Mr. Ochesnik, finally.
The mayor had mentioned the weather was warm and extremely inviting or pleasant. Warm, and I'd just like to say that I believe that fits his character to a T. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn, Stunek. Second by O'Day. Any further discussion? All in favor? Say aye. Aye.